Good evening, everybody. Uh, Speaking of the Spirit here tonight, that's just so wonderful because I guarantee you get a different spirit in Africa. And I deal with demonic forces all the time. Never here, never see them, never. But here in Africa, it's an incredibly different world. My name is Steve Dollar. I'm the chairman of the board of our independent mission board called PHH Uganda, Pushing Humanity Higher Uganda. That gets you in a lot more jails than Baptist ministry or something would I'll tell you. Uh, my wife and I were home missionaries, retired from the Virginia Baptist General Association, and we were church planters. That was our job. And we only planted one church because I wasn't ordained until I was 61 or 62 years old. It took me a while to get the right meaning. We had just planted a small church. One day I got an email, and it was from this guy that had just gotten saved and wanted to be discipled. I said, well, what would you say? Come on down to the church? No problem. He said, well, I can. I'm in Africa. So that didn't go quite as planned. And the question that we have both had for all these 15, 16 years is, how did he find me? He was in Africa. I was in rural Virginia. How'd you find me? And we don't know how that happened. We really don't. So, God thing, right? That's the only way that you can possibly account for it. That introduction was the beginning of our relationship. I did disciple him, and he eventually became our solely supported church missionary. $15 a month. I tell you, we're a small, that's all he got. That was the total amount of revenue he received. So he had to have a second job while he was over there. And he started this, it was the beginning of PHH, and Moses was the beginning of that. He has started what has been a wonderful, riveting, rewarding career in his call field. That is that of evangelist to particularly the bush people. And Moses will tell you about the bush. When I say bush, I want you to get vision in your head is that's it. There's a bush. That's all there is. Well, that's about right. With a particular emphasis on the children of Uganda. This is my wife, Vi. She's one of the members of the board. Tell them what you got to tell them.
Thank you for having us. The only thing I really want to say is we have brochures in the back, and you're welcome to pick them up as you leave. Thank you.
I tell someone about some of our funds that we have for calling on and doing this work. Moses was born a Muslim. He was in training to become the Muslim leader of his village. He was being groomed. In fact, he was already anointed for that. Or correct me if I'm wrong there, Moses, but I think that was a word. His conversion to Christ was a direct attack on the Muslim faith. He was attacked. He was beaten. He was left for dead. He had a death sentence pronounced on him. He was bombed. Moses is a true hero of the faith. I call him my Paul, and he calls others his Timothy. So we're spreading that on. I am proud to call him son, because over all these years he is, and he is proud to call me Papa. Moses?
Good evening. Good evening, good afternoon. I'm so glad to be here, and I am so grateful to God that I speak the kind of English that at least you understand, without having an interpreter. So I am so grateful to God. I want to take this opportunity to thank Pastor Doug to having given me the opportunity to and come and share with you wonderful saints of God. I am so grateful. Thank you, Pastor Doug. And I'm delighted once again to have Papa Steve and Mom Vi. Thank you for the years, for the sacrifices. I am not yet a better man, but I am who I am because of you. Thank you so much. Pastor Bob and Terry, you're amazing. When Pastor Bob came to Uganda 2 years ago, uh, well, he just said it. He was preaching like me, like just like I'm speaking right now. But after 3 days, he was on fire and he was preaching like he has been in Uganda for the last 10 years. I am delighted. Thank you, Pastor, for providing the opportunity once again to connect with Pastor Doug. My name is Moses Jedidiah Muwanguzi. Moses means drawn out, and Jedidiah means beloved of God, name given to Solomon at birth. So I love that name. I rewarded that name to myself. Quite, it means so much to me. It brings comfort. It brings a lot of things. So it means beloved of God. And Muwanguzi is my son name. Initially, I was called Murwanyi. I was born as Musa Murwanyi. Musa is the translation of Moses. So when I got saved, I got to know that I cannot be Musa, I can be Moses. Now, Murwanyi means a fighter. My original name meant a fighter. And then I had to change the name to Muwanguzi, which means victor. So all the names are biblical names, and I have no attachment to the Muslim community where I grew up, so I'm in Christ. I am married to a beautiful wife called Anita Muwanguzi with 2 beautiful children. The baby is called Brooke, Brooke from the brook, Elijah's brook, the river, the brook of Cherith. Thank you. And then the boy, Brooke, is 2 years. He just made 2 years last week. And something about Brooke, God performed a miracle. She was born a premature with 3 holes in the heart. And it was quite a challenge. But there's a God, a mighty God, the mighty healer, the greatest physician. And he healed her, and the holes disappeared completely. Today, Brooke is alive with no holes. And Jaziel just made 7 months this month. He's a lovely, lovely boy. My journey starts from so far away. I was born in a Muslim community, and I was born in a Muslim family. I became a heir to my uncle, who was an imam. He was a sheikh. He was the Muslim teacher. Muslim teachers are respected in the villages more than anything. So they teach, their responsibilities is to teach Islamic faith, to instill Islamic faith in young children right from the ages of 4. So in our Muslim communities, they, in the Muslim communities, it is encouraged to teach the Quran, the faith in them. There's nothing that they grow up knowing, not even English, not even any other thing. The alphabets, everything that it is found in school, in formal schools, the Muslim teach them. So right from the young age, they know, they recite the Quran. So this imam is responsible for doing that. Now, when he passed away, I was a teenager. When he passed away, I inherited. I took over. So I was in the making, because I was in the making. I was the heir, but I was still in the making to formalize and do all the ceremonies, and then in the process, while attending, I had a birthday party at home. Yeah, local birthday parties. You can't imagine the gifts that I had, not the ones that are wrapped, but I had so many funny gifts. But one of the gifts, while I was checking in, there was a Bible in the gift. Now, to find a Bible in a Muslim community or a family, that will be like having an elephant break those walls and coming in over here. The point is, there's no way you can find a Bible in a Muslim home. No way. So, to me, that was an offense, a very serious offense. I was mad, I was angry, because we are taught in a way that any other religion is inferior. The only true religion is the Islam faith. So, as a teenager coming from this rich, not rich with wealth, but rich Muslim faith background, we are proud in the community. So there will be nothing that they will do to us because we are our grandparents and parents were prominent Muslims. So we are proud of our faith. And my surroundings and the aunties and the uncles were all Muslims. And now the fact that I was the heir, it made everything so different. Now, I get to understand now that I don't think that there was a person who dropped the Bible in my room, but I strongly believe it was the angel of the Lord who dropped the Bible in my room. And as far as I can try to recall many years ago, there's no way, there was no way anyone could bring a Bible. But even before this Bible, there are lots of things that we did, trying to suppress the truth. A lot of things that we did as Muslims. But on this very night, when I saw the Bible, it took me time because I was mad, I was angry. That was very disrespectful, and also I was worried that anybody else could get to know that I had a Bible in my room. But after a couple of days struggling, because I wanted to burn the Bible, I wanted to burn this book. It wasn't a Bible, but I wanted to burn this book. I was really, really, really furious. And on one night, I tried to open the Bible, just this book, trying to read through, just to check it out. And then I opened up and I came to Isaiah 45. My eyes just opened up right in front of this book, Isaiah 45. So I began to read the book, and everything that I was reading, everything was speaking direct to me, even though I didn't understand, but it was speaking directly to my life. Now, I became more furious and I was shaking because how in this world would I find the most despised book in our community speaking some of the things that were strange to me? So that troubled me and my understanding, because that wasn't the perfect source to read. I mean, that can't be the book to speak directly to me. So I spent a couple of days alone in my room. I wasn't living there alone. I spent about 3 days locked in my room. And I think today I call it the spirit, but I was battling with the reason why I had to open up this Bible. It was like an omen. It was like I was fighting with a curse. I opened up this book, and the curses in that book are so strong in my life. But after a couple of days, I from Isaiah 45, then Isaiah 42, the Lord was so strong in my life, and just like that, I accepted Christ to be my personal Lord and Savior. And I was a burning desire hit me up, and I wanted to learn more about this book. I wanted to learn more about this God, but I was contained. I was contained at home. There's no way, there will be no way I would do anything because I had restrictions around me. So I was fighting against the limitations and the people around me, but yet deep inside of me, I was burning up with something new that I had received. But I got the courage, and I told the elders around that I am saved. I received Christ. And because they knew us, I was just a young teenager by then. They say, he will give it up. He will give up. Just let him be. Just give him some time. And it never happened. So I missed going for prayers in the mornings, the evenings. And so they got to understand that whatever was going on it wasn't matching out with what the expectations were. So after some time, after a while, after meeting, they disowned me. They said, from today onwards, you will not be a part of this family. So just go. Just go. Just leave. They were mad and furious. There was a lot of things. So they had to send me away. Now, I am talking about a village that is, I was so far away. And this is the community that I grew up in. I didn't know any other place apart from communities, from the schools around, from aunties and from friends. This is the only place that I knew. And they were sending me away, not only away, but away from the community, because I was a rotten tomato. So the more that I was around, the more that I would spoil all the other people around. So my other families and my siblings will take over the example, and that wouldn't be contained. So they had to send me away. But I was burning inside of me, and there was courage inside of me that I had found something. Although I didn't understand, but I knew that there's something that I found right inside of me. So I was left and walked for quite some time, and somehow, I got to the city. I arrived in town, so many miles away. So I arrived in the city, did a couple of works, jobs. But now, the reason why I moved away, there were some little churches around in the neighborhood, but because the pastors, the local leaders in those churches, because we are a big family with lots of farms, we would feed these pastors. So it wasn't making sense to me to go to those churches because naturally we had despised them. So there would be nothing that will add up to me. I needed something that was more than what I'd seen. So I'm trying to cut up the story short. I shouldn't? Okay, thank you. So while in the city, I was looking for answers. I tried so hard to look for answers, but I don't know how. I didn't look in the right places. I didn't find the right people. So one day, I go to the internet cafe. There's an internet cafe. I'm not sure if it is common here. You have to pay some money, and they give you a few minutes, about 20, 15, just to get on the web, find anything. So I get to the internet cafe, try to look for answers about God, about salvation, everything. And I get to find a website that had an email, and I think it was a group. I got to know that he was a pastor, and I wrote to him, "Hello, I want you to disciple me." And it was Papa Steve right here. So he responded in a way that he actually called me in the evening, thinking I was around. Say, come to church in the evening. And I told him, I am so far away. I'm in Africa. And so later on, he sent me books. He sent me books to read, and there were CDs I could listen to, and my faith began to grow up. But as I was growing up, the burning desire to preach the gospel was increasing every single day. I felt like I needed to go out. I needed to witness. I needed to preach the gospel. So one day I asked him, I said, I want to preach, and how do they do it? I think,
I don't know. I want to preach in the villages, but I don't know what village or how to preach. How do I do this? He's asking me. So I told him, get on a bus. When it gets to the village, get off and start preaching. That's exactly what he did.
so I would find a bus that was heading to a different direction, and then just get into the bus. Any stop that it made, I would jump off and start preaching. So I did that I've been doing that for all the years. I just get onto the bus and start preaching. Along the way, I would walk so many miles and kilometers. I would get to places that are hostile, but the Lord has been with me. For all the years, the Lord has used me in extraordinary ways. I've witnessed miracles with God using my hands, miracles. I've faced the lots of witches who are speaking about spirits and the witches. I've been able to, there are a couple of witch doctors that have received Christ to be their personal savior. It is quite a complex to be a witch, to the kind of a gospel that you can preach to a witch doctor, because they believe, they not only do they believe about fetishes, but they believe about magic. So you have to prove that the power that you have goes beyond the magic. Just like Moses was. They have a snake, you have a snake. What makes a difference? That your snake will eat their snakes. And that's the kind of gospel that these villages understand. The times when you go into a village and the only thing in the village they know is that there's a stronghold. The Bible calls them stronghold and principalities. Yes, they are real. So you get into a village and a couple of things happen. You're standing right in the middle of a community soccer field, and wind is blowing. There's the kind of wind that you feel, not the one in Pensacola. This has no spirits. I've been to the beach, and what was really surprising, it's in Africa, it's sunny. And that is, it has to be sunny. If it's sunny, it is sunny. Here in Pensacola, it is sunny and then cold and windy. So I had a hard time trying to understand the weather here. How can it be sunny and then cold? So it is either cold and not sunny. It is either cold, not sunny and cold. So there will be wind blowing you, and it's demonic wind. So it is a fight between you and the evil powers. And there's a village right in front of you that you need to prove that the kind of God that you're preaching is the kind of God, powerful God that can stop the wind and do so much more. So in the time, some of these things I didn't know because I never got to sit down and learn. So I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of errors, but the Lord taught me how to do it better as time went on. Praise the name of the Lord. So I would face this resistance with the winds, with the rains, but God taught me how, and many lives have been saved because of my endeavors in evangelism, door-to-door ministry. Of all the years ever since 2006, the Lord has used me to plant more than 50 churches that include the islands and the borders and different places, the jungles and forests in Uganda alone. And along the way, the Lord has used me. It was last year when I left my family, I was really, really bitter. And in my argument was that in our families, religion, the Islamic faith gets to rhyme with cultural beliefs. You don't separate religion with cultural beliefs. So it is okay for you to come to church and praise and worship God, and then go around in a shrine and then worship the gods. So in Africa, that is common. So some of the religions, the Muslim and all of that, do that because it's part of culture. They say you don't separate with culture. So my argument was, if you are able to stand, to be with the, to have cultural practices, to go, to blend with the witch doctors and all of that, why is it hard for you to stand me? So my case was completely different. So that pain I carried on for years, seeing the people that you grew up with, the uncles and the aunties who disown you, who curse you, who treat you like you did the most evil thing, like you were second to Satan. So that heart was stayed with me for quite some time. And I said, I will never forgive you. I will never forgive them. That carried on. I tried so much, but that carried on, thinking about all that I had to go through. Not only did they disown me, but when they cast me away from my home, I stayed around because I didn't have any place to go. I stayed around in several places in communities and villages, and that's when they started to hunt me down with a purpose, either to have me vanish, like to kill me, and nobody would even ask, because it is by right to do anything and nobody would ask. No police, no nothing. So I would vanish away. It would serve a lesson to everybody else. You leave the faith, this is what happens, and that will be it. So one of the reasons why I had to run away, in fact, my brother, my young brother now, Arthur, who's now, we're working together, evangelist, came to me and said, this is what they're planning to do. And that was the reason why I had to run away. And that never stopped. It never stopped. When I ran away from the village, even in the city where I was. So they made sure that whoever is connected to my family's uncles so far away in town, they get to know. They wouldn't welcome me. So in the city, I was all alone. But then the desire to preach the gospel, to evangelize, kept on and on and on. And I never stopped. A year ago, the Lord spoke to me to go back to my village. It was a tough battle. It was a tough battle. And I said, I can't go there for reasons that God, you know very well. I can't go back there. This is what I can't go back there for reasons. And the Lord broke my heart in two pieces. And he told me, you're not only going there, but you're going there to ask for forgiveness. So now that was a blow to me, because you can't go to the people that did all that they did and they're Muslims and you ask for forgiveness. And I accepted and I went back and I met them and I blessed them with what I had and I preached to them. They received Christ, and others, the elder ones, received Christ secretly, because they never wanted others to know, but they received Christ. And as I speak, there's a church right there in this village.
You can make a noise anytime you want to.
I've had my brothers and other sisters join me, and they've received Christ as their personal savior. My younger brother also received Christ, and I have my mother as well, and other relatives. So the family, the Christian family of faith, is growing gradually. But in a span of all these years, there are lots of things that I've had. I've been beaten. I've been. I. They've done everything, but that never broke me down. And that never broke me down. I'm sorry. Um, yeah.
About that village, that Muslim village, that village that pronounced a death sentence on him, that Moses that told him to get out. He said he went back and asked forgiveness. But you know what he did besides that? He planted a church in that village. And you know how mad that made them? They chased him around during the day, but not so dangerous. But at night, nobody's around. It's easy. So at night, they really followed him. He had to hide every night. You want to make some noise? Ask me where he hid. In the mosque. Nobody's going to look for him there.
Thank you. At times I get emotional, but I'm trying to overcome. If I come to understand and believe that my journey to salvation was because there was one person who prayed. Maybe there were a group of people who prayed. This is something that I don't think would happen. But because there was a man, there's a woman. They never preached to me, but I know that there was a person who prayed, whether in the community, whether outside of the community, but there were a group of people that were praying. If they never did that, I wouldn't be standing right here in front of you. There are so many people like me out there in this world. Many people, even in Pensacola. But the reason why they're still there is because you haven't taken a bold step. You haven't come to a realization that there could be more Pauls and more Timothys and more Stephens that would preach the gospel, that would do more in this world. I also believe that if we as Christians, if we as people get back to a place where we know that the people like me, the people that do worse things like me, much as the Bible says that how will they know if you don't go out to them and speak? We are hindering, or we are placing a wall to so many people that would be of a great benefit in the kingdom of God. God uses people like me. God uses people like you. At any age, God uses people like me. God uses people like you. You don't have to be 50 or 60 years. God can use you because in the kingdom, there's the power of multiplication. If you don't pray, you may not go to Africa to preach the gospel. You may not go to the bushes. You may not go to any parts where I come from to preach the gospel. But when you come back home, when you get back home, spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes praying for more salvation. While I am out there, I am adding on to the kingdom of God where you belong. The challenge has been that maybe we are waiting on one special person to come and do the job for us. That may happen, that may not be happening. But in the kingdom of darkness, the devil is multiplying every single day of our lives. And the more that we are quiet, the more that we are silent, the devil is multiplying. And at the end of the day, your family is going to be infiltrated. Right from your cousins and your nephews. It would have been easier if the devil found a wall of protection because you pray for them. You are speaking to them every single day. It's a commitment, and somewhere, somehow, it may not be rewarding, but the seeds that you keep on doing, it doesn't mean that much as you preach to them, they must be saved. But it is a seed that is sown into their lives. It doesn't, you never know. They could be at school, they could be anywhere, and somebody just like me, anywhere, and they would find this person, and they would just develop a hunger to get saved. They would just develop a hunger to love God, but you sowed a seed. So the world is perishing. Even in Uganda, many people are perishing, but we are not in the position. If personally, if me as a person have been committed, I used to walk for several miles on foot, and I didn't mind whether I'm going to eat or I would starve sometimes. I would live in unfinished schools. It would rain, there would be lots of things, snakes and all of that. But my desire was, I wanted more for the kingdom. I wanted more for the kingdom. And at times I would go, many times, you go to the gardens. I don't know if you have gardens here, you call them farms. You would go to the gardens, you find them, and they're busy. They don't even have your time. They're busy attending to children. There's not going to be any other place where you find people ready to receive you. That will never happen. But I find them because I want to add up to the kingdom. A kingdom. I'm a kingdom investor. So are you. It may be through prayers. It may be anything. But if we develop a habit to be multipliers of a kingdom, we have a great reward in heaven. And the Lord will smile on us because we are reducing the kingdom of darkness. So many people that I found in the gardens, they're digging, they're doing a lot of things, and some don't even pay attention. You're speaking to a person and he's not even paying attention. But because I received the greatest gift, I received salvation, and I'm happy regardless of my past. I want the same person to receive the same. You just never know. God might use them to reach out to the people that you're afraid to reach out to. And surprisingly, some have found when they are ready, and they've been waiting. Some I have found when it is not hard to spend more time preaching to them. I said, what should I do? Okay, these are the words you say, and they confess Christ. Praise the name of the Lord. Now, okay. I feel strongly that God wants to give birth to a revival in our lives. But I also feel that we have been telling God, it's not yet time. It's not yet time. It's not yet time. We are telling God, it's not yet time. No, it's not yet time because we are not yet ready. But I also feel that something is about to change. And I also feel strongly that if we go back home and pray for those people that you've never come across, for those people, marriages are breaking down, relationships are breaking down, so many things, lots of devilish activities going on. And the only thing that these people need is Christ. Is the only Savior, is the only deliverer. And when we shut our mouth and we don't pray because we are doing fine, we are not benefiting the kingdom. The blood of so many people that are getting lost is in our hands. I will ask you tonight, even when you go back home, please spend time to pray for people that you don't know. We have our prayer lists, broken marriages, and you pray for somebody who is looking for a job. Maybe you've ever been into a position when you lost a job. You have an idea. But where I come from, children love to go to school because they know that it's only at school when they will wear their first shoes. It is only when they're given an opportunity, it is when they'll be able to have this decent piece of cloth they call a uniform. They're able to go to school. They love to go to school because it is the only place where they will have porridge during the day. It doesn't matter how many kilometers and miles they have to walk as long as they get to school. That will be a prayer for a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old. It is a prayer request to have shoes, to be at school. And surprisingly, each time that you ask them, they would ask them, what do you want to become when you grow up? They would say, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a teacher. I want to be this person. But one of the things that really touch me is they say, I want to be a doctor. When I become a doctor, I will build a hospital that will help my people and I'll treat them for free. If I become a teacher, I will build a school and have all the people, have all the children come to school for free. I understand in the generation that we live in, it is basically about me, 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 me. But you can imagine if this child, some of them, most of them, and Pastor Bob and Papa Steve have witnessed this. For church services, it is until you tell them, go back home. They don't want to go back home. I have a Jesus film backpack that I carry. I've taken it to places where they've never seen a screen. Not a screen. They've never seen any white color, a big white color. More so, a screen with a movie, the Jesus movie, that speaks in their dialect, local language. I have trouble sending these people away because to them that is Christmas, to them that is Easter, to them that is all. Even when they don't eat, and they would walk several miles to come and watch the movie. And this has been the best way how the Lord has saved so many, because it's the first time they're watching this big screen. And most importantly, to see the Jesus, I had to say the white Jesus, sorry. Yes, to speak in their local languages, to speak their language. It is amazing to see a lion say Jesus is Lord. Wouldn't that surprise you? It is the same way that happens there. So there's a burning desire down there in the villages, because as much as they don't have it all, they keep on praying and praying and believing God for more, to be better. I also feel in the same way that if deep down inside our hearts, we get to understand that much as you received Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, there's one other person who'd love to be seated right next to you in this church, to worship, to praise. And I've also come to understand that it is so beautiful when you have somebody that you brought to church, they spend 2 years, 3 years, that is your DNA, because you've been multiplied to another person that you see daily. You can point and say, you know, I brought him to church. It feels good. Standing in front of these people, young men and young boys in the village, and having them come to accept Christ, it is the most wonderful feeling that you can ever have. The fact that I live in town and have to go to the villages, you feel like this is the best feeling that you can ever have. I tell you, it feels good. You could try it. You could try it with a friend. I'm sorry. I have skipped death a couple of times. I've survived death many times. And I know I'm always at war, even with family. While I move out to the villages to preach the gospel, I know that my family is in danger. What the devil can't do to me when I've built up the walls, he will come around and attack my family. But the reason why I keep on going, and I know this is one way, there's no U-turn, and this is my life. This is the life that God called me to do and to live. It's one way. I also understand that as long as I have my legs, 2 feet on me, and as long as I have a mouth to speak, I'll still continue to preach Jesus and to make him known to so many parts of Uganda and across the borders. Now, this has come with a lot of sacrifices and has come with a lot of prices to pay. But nevertheless, I think a few months ago when I felt in my heart to go to there's a jungle, a very huge jungle. It's the land of the pygmies, the very short people, very, very short people. They are short and strong and violent, and they're cannibals. So when I told Papa that I'm going, I feel strongly to go to this community. He said, don't go. But I knew that if I don't go there, they will never know. They will never know about Jesus. They will never know. Sometimes you get into a village and you don't know the direction. I've been led to places where there are dead ends and you have to come back all the way. Could be nights, rains, and the sun. Why do I have to go all the way? I just want the world to know about Jesus. The wonder-working Jesus. We don't speak about Jesus who's like a statue. We don't speak about Jesus who doesn't work. I have tried so many times, even through prayers, that if people will not believe the words I speak, God, prove them by your miraculous signs. And God has not failed me, not at any point. Even at times when I lose my faith and I'm thinking, this is not going to happen, God has been there and has proved to be the God. You may not be an evangelist. You may not be any other person, but we have a great commission that the Lord gave us in the Bible. It is just one simple assignment. And I just want to pray. And I ask God that possibly in the next service, it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you come along with 2, 3, or just one person. You present him to the Lord. This is just one person I brought you, Lord. All our blessings, you just never know. Some of the things that we pray, the Lord may possibly not answer, but find a reason to tell God, you should answer me because I brought a soul to your kingdom. And that's how it works. I feel that this is the time that God to be manifested in our lives and the people that are around us. They may not understand you, but let the people around you understand that there's a God that works. There's a God that delivers, and there's a God that heals. I'll read one more scripture, and then it's about time. It's about time. I love this scripture, and I'll read it to you in the book of Isaiah chapter 66, verse 7. Possibly you can write it. You can write it down. I think I'll have Psalms. I'll first have Psalms 85, 6. You can write it down. You will go back home and read it. It says, will you not revive us again that your people might rejoice in you? Will you not revive us again that your people may not rejoice in you? In the book of 1 Corinthians, I'll leave this. It says, my message, 1 Corinthians chapter 2 from verse 4. It says, my message and my preaching were not with wise and persuasive words, but with a demonstration of the Spirit's power, so that your faith might not rest on human wisdom, but on God's power. So at times, words alone cease to make sense. In a time when you are simply speaking, we need the power of God to move in and make things happen. I pray that tonight, not only your words, but I pray that the Lord will grant you the power, much as you speak, much as you pray, that God will help you reveal his power to the people around you so you can make a difference and add up to the kingdom of God. I'll leave this with you. Tonight, when you go back home, there are two things that I will request you to do. Only two things that I will request you to do. How best can you love? And how best can you share the gospel to your neighbor? How best can you love? How best can you share the gospel to your neighbor? And with that, I want to say thank you for listening.
Good job, buddy. We're going to have time for questions for Moses here in a minute. I want to give a couple of things. After 4 or 5 years he'd been a missionary of the church was wanting numbers. You know, we always say it's not about numbers, but guess what we always ask for? How many do you have, right? That's the thing. So we did the same thing. Well, Moses said, well, I don't know how to do that. But he started putting together a list of those who say by name, and he sent them to us, and it was hundreds. I mean, it was page after page after page of names.
Is there anyone you want to redeem your relationship with God? If you feel you need to redeem your relationship to God, I would like to pray with you.
He'll be available for that.
If you're here, I would like to pray for you.
Well, around 2012, sometime around then, he said the list is probably over 10,000. A little tiny church of about 15 people in somewhere in a cul-de-sac in some faraway little community in Virginia, in the hills. Well, so if you decide to support us individually as a church, it doesn't matter. An amount doesn't matter, but we do have the one with the different funds. We can put you on, if you'd like to, the pastor, or we can put it on email so you'll get to see his mission report to come directly from the same mission report we send to the board, what they're doing every month, approximately every month. And or you can just go to our site. The site is listed, peachuganda.org, and you can get them there, and you can join under that, and you can get emails whenever things can go on. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. By the way, we're looking for a communications specialist to do that on the board. If anybody would think God may be calling you to that, that would be interesting. We are an international board, independent board. And the third thing is these children things, and I want to emphasize that because that's part of my heart, part of my wife and I, we do contribute. What you do is you support an individual. It's $20 a month, I think, or you can do it by the year any way you want. You'll get reports on this child. We are working out the kinks after a year or two. We still don't have them. These children are scattered all over Uganda. Getting reports back, getting paper back is extremely difficult. And so we're trying to figure out ways to maybe picture it and then send that as an email attachment. I don't know. We're still growing. We're still working. But here's my thoughts on these children. Somewhere out there in the wilds of Uganda, in those villages, there is a child who will become a world leader. Do you want him a world leader, educated in a Christian school, or not? That's my part on that. I have a lot to say about, but we'll not go into it, on demonic activity. Bob, would you like to give your story on that particular one? Okay. He's never refused to give a story yet, so.
Okay. Well, I'll make it really, really short because I know everybody's got to go. I didn't want to go to Africa. When I was praying for our church, I wanted our church to be a mission-minded church, but I didn't want to go to Africa. So Steve showed up at our church and says, well, I'm going to go. He says, well, look, I'm going to have a trip to go to Africa. I want you to go with me, Pastor. I said, I didn't want to go to Africa. My wife, though, wanted to go. So for all of you that are married, you know what that means. That means I was going to Africa. But the miracle about that was this. I was in the middle of moving. I was in the middle of actually just buying some property. And I told my wife the day before we had to just have a ticket, which was $4,000. I told my wife, I said, we don't have the $4,000, honey. We can't go. And I got a little bit sarcastic. I said, God's got to do something really big if he wants us to actually go by tomorrow. Right after I said that, a man come up to me within 10 minutes of me saying that and tapped me on the shoulder and said, Pastor, God just prompted me to give you a check for $4,000. As a pastor, I said, there's no way I'm going to take that money, sir. As a pastor, people come up and give you $50, $75. I wasn't taking $4,000. And he pulled me in my office and he more or less made me take that money. We went over there, and if you would have told a Baptist preacher that on his first night in Africa that I'd be doing an exorcism, I would have said, you were crazy. I sat down because I was going to preach in this village. Now, very quickly, and I'll stop. Church lasts over there from 7 o'clock in the morning, like he said, until 11, 12 o'clock that night, nonstop, praising and worshiping. I got up to preach, and they said, we need to get 3 hours out of you. I said, I'm a Baptist preacher, 20 minutes, I'm done. So they said 3 hours. Right afterwards, this girl come up to me she was about that big, about 90 pounds. After service, everybody wants prayer. They all rush up to the front. They just surround you, and you're praying for everybody. And that takes hours and hours, and it was the most incredible thing. But this one girl come up and just stood there, and I asked if she wanted prayer, and she just looked at me. So I grabbed her arm, and she yanked away from me. It's about as violent as I've ever felt in my entire life. And about that time, I grabbed her arm, and I called Steve, and I called 3 other men. And so we're holding her, and she's levitating. This is, what I've got a picture of this if anybody wants to see it. She's levitating off the ground by about that much, and still stronger than all of us grown men holding her. And she's yelling and screaming, and her face is just contorting and all these different. And after about an hour or two of prayer, she passed out. And then about 3 hours later, we got to baptize her in an offshoot of the Nile River, which just was amazing. So that's what's going on. When he talks about evil spirits, like I said, I see them all the time. I work in the jail, but I've never seen it like that. So there.
Thank you. All right, folks, we're opening up for questions for Moses. Moses coming up here. And anybody got anything? I'll stay up because I may have to. He doesn't always hear the English. He doesn't hear it as well as he speaks it. Let's put it that way. All right, anybody got anything? You kids got an exciting life. I got to tell you.
The Bible that you was given as a gift, was that in English or in your native language?
No, it was in English. I
It
still
was
have
in
it.
English?
Yes.
And you could read it?
I read the first verses. I just don't know how, but I read and they made sense.
Wow. that's
English is their national language, but only for those that go to school. Because those that don't go to school will grow up learning the family, Uganda, or whatever the language they have. So they do like English Bibles. Some villages want English, some people want English, and
Praise the Lord. I wanted just to share with these kids because their time is running down, but go ahead, Moses, come on up. He was sharing with us different things. We asked about miracles because I went to the conference at Bob's church, the luncheon. Someone who could not read was given a Bible. They were given a Bible, and immediately, can you tell what happened?
Yes. There's a gentleman has never. He couldn't read. He has never read. So but he wanted a Bible. So when he was given a Bible, he began reading, and he began reading. He had never read. He didn't know how to read, but he was given a Bible, and a miracle happened, and he started reading the Bible.
And so I'm making these quick just for the sake of time. Moses has also experienced what he was trying to say is the weather will change. And so there's a power struggle there. And so he's had to bind the weather and he's had to bind the rain. Well, he left because it was trying to rain him out. He left the village and they called him up and said, could you loose the rain now because we need it for our crops? Could you confirm that?
In one village, we were having a very big rally, and there were spirits. There was a witch doctor in that village, so he got the clouds dark. He was releasing rain. He didn't want the meeting to go on, so everybody was running to hide, and I remained right in the middle of the ground because I needed to prove that God is there. And I also say that if it rains, I'm not going to hide. So I prayed to God and I stopped the rain. About 15 minutes, the clouds began to depart. Yes, depart. The dark clouds began to depart, and the skies cleared up. And we preached for the week, and the rest of the week we got back home. So because there was a pastor who had heard that I had stopped the rains.
He's going to pass the picture of the man just miraculously began.
So one of the pastors called because he had heard the word that had stopped the rain, had stopped the rain from raining. So he called me and said, hey, Moses, please, could you release the rain because our crops are drying. You never release the rain. And I know it rained. I don't know when, but it rained.
You know a biblical story about that, Joe, particularly? You know?
Yes, with Elijah, the Lord used him to shut up the rain. And we had one other story I just wanted you to know that Moses said he was going to a village where the trees would contort and they would actually turn into sexual imagery. And that's where they would worship. And he said if they would have known, the fishermen would have known where I was going and what I was doing, they would have drowned me. Could you explain that just real briefly?
Okay, thank you. I was going to the island, and this was a cultural site for many things that happen, cultural spirits and the demons. So I felt I needed to go there. But I had to hide myself, disguise myself that I was a preacher man. So while on the boat, I went by the boat, and we had a battle with the witches and all of that. This is something that I cannot explain with words. But right after everything, because fishing involves a lot of spirits. So they use those spirits to go about. There are practices that are done on the lake, on the river before you do that. So when they got to know that it was me, they told me it can't be safe to cross over with the fishermen on the boat. They will kill you. So I had to use inland. I didn't have to get to the boat, so I had to walk several miles inland. I had to walk several miles because if I'd used the boat, I will be dead. They will drown me. They will drown me in the lake or in the river. So I had to walk several miles to get to a safe place and live out and leave the village. But God performed, and all the fetishes were brought down.
Fletch. Yeah, we're going to take up receive an offering right now in just a second. We can, because what I want to do is, what I told my wife was when I heard Moses, I just wanted his spirit to be released. And he's got so many other stories, but I wanted you to see that these are not just stories that we hear. Here's a man that they've tried to kill several times. And I don't know if you understood what he was saying was he got a Bible wrapped in banana leaves for his birthday when he was a teenager. And he said that was a miracle that it got into the Muslim village and got into his family, and that he hated that Bible. But that Bible sat in his room and it drew him, and he got saved. His family drove him out. They tried to kill him. And I want you to see living proof of someone who goes into the village where people try to kill you, where there's power encounters, where you have to bind the rain and the weather. When he said a wind is coming, that was a demonic wind, and you have to stand and believe in the power of God. I just want you to see a living example that this is real, this stuff is real, it goes on.